So last year I kind of did this wild thing. Guys, I think my book just came. It's a big boy. Oh my god. I finally got around to re-releasing and self-publishing the book that I originally wrote in high school. And now it's officially time to write the second one. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing a vlog all about how I plan on writing the second book to the first Catcher book that I had originally written and released back in August of 2018. If you guys didn't know, or if you're new here, this is the book that I wrote. It's called Catcher, and I originally actually wrote it in high school. A lot of you guys followed me on the whole process of bringing it to life again, but for those of you that didn't, here's like a short condensed version of it. I wrote it in high school. It was a completely different story back then, and then I ended up finding a couple of the chapters in my email when I lived in my old apartment with Maggie, my old roommate, and she actually basically talked me into rewriting it again, so I did, and then finally released it on August 13th of 2018. Now, so many of you guys asked me so many questions, like how I wrote it and where I came up with the idea and like exactly how to write a book, or to like just do basically a full video on why I like to write, how I like to write, and all of that good stuff. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily the right way to write a book, but today I'm going to share with you guys how I wrote the first book, and basically this is like a plan with me for Catcher 2 in the sense that I'm going to be mapping out all the ways that I plan to write and complete the second book. The really cool thing, I think, going into Catcher 2 this year and knowing that this was going to be a project of mine for 2019 is the fact that I'm taking all of the tools that I learned from doing this the first time and I'm going to implement them in the second time. So this time I'm not putting any crazy deadline on myself. I have like an idea of when I want this book to be done by, but I'm not putting any crazy crunch deadlines on myself at the moment, at least until I have a brief idea as to what the whole book layout is going to be like, what the whole book storyline is going to be like, and also figuring out how I'm going to write it, because a lot of the second book is actually very connected to things going on in 2019. So that is the super fun part, and what I definitely would say I learned the most from writing the first one, and I'm just really excited to sit down today and map out the second one. Now I have about a few more chapters left. I actually ended up rereading this book again because it had been since summer since I had read it, and so I decided to reread it to make sure that it was fresh in my mind. Also to hang tight till the end of this video because I'm going to be giving away 13 versions of Catcher. Nice little letter to you from me inside. So without further ado, I hope you guys are cozy and you have a cup of coffee and you're ready to start writing Catcher 2. Wow, that was a lot of C-related words. I really liked that. Let's just get to it, shall we? Okay, so first things first. Anytime I'm working on anything on my computer, I always just want to high pony my hair out of place and like settle in. So I've got all the things I need here, including Catcher, some good juju via crystals, my brush pen set so that I can write out all of the cue cards for each chapter, and I'm going to be using bullet journal pages. So this is like a practice bullet journal. I am learning how to bullet journal, and this is like my practice bullet journal, or like my first bullet journal, and the pages are easy tear, so I've already messed up in this one a few times, which is totally fine, because after I'm done the bullet journaling book, I'm thinking I'm just going to start a fresh bullet journal, because this one was, like I said, just like practicing layouts and stuff, but it makes it so that I can still use the paper as like, you know, other things. So like I said, this is like an easy tear like such, and then I'm going to use these as little cue cards kind of for each of the chapters. book, or if you're writing a book, I would always start with a brainstorm. So that's what I did here. I wrote out just basically how I wanted the book to begin, where I wanted the turning point to be, what I wanted the conflict to be, what I wanted the stakes of the conflict in the book to be, the connection, meaning all of like the things and pieces that need to be reconnected before the outcome. So that is basically how I mapped out the brainstorm. And then the really cool thing about once you do that and you do it in point form is you can then just flip it over or take a separate piece of paper, or if you're using a computer, type it out. But take all of your port forms from your brainstorm that you're going to keep for your story, like circle the ones that you want to actually use for your storyline, and then you can write out pretty much a summary right from your brainstorm based on how your whole book is going to go. So that is just a really easy way to kind of get an overall concept as to how your story is going to, first of all, follow a storyline, but also to make sure that you're connecting everything that you need to. You don't necessarily have to stick to it. I know that once I actually start writing, a lot of the times I'll get these creative impulses and I'll find new ways to work the story around them. But this is just always like a really good way to like start and to base it off of. And then next, all I did was create little cue cards for each of the chapters. So prologue 1, 2, 3, and then basically once I had my summary, I only did all the way up to chapter 4, which with the prologue will be about 5 chapters. So I mapped out point form what I wanted the first 5 chapters to include, solely because I'm going to fill out the rest of the chapters as well, but I feel like I'm going to do it on a chapter by chapter basis. So once I write one, I'll fill in the next one, and that way I'm not going too far ahead of myself, and then if things do end up changing, I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like my cue cards aren't unusable. So instead I'm doing it 5 chapters at a time so that I can see just enough ahead of me in the story that I'm able to frame it right, but I'm also still able to pull on creative impulse and also just kind of write what flows through me. So that is pretty much how I planned all this out. Some things that you guys want to probably keep in mind if you're writing your own book is another way to brainstorm. Now, because I already have the first book written, I didn't need to brainstorm this time around like setting, which is like where your book is, where is it going to take place, character development, meaning I already had my characters, although there is going to be some character development throughout the book. I mean more so building up your characters, building out who they are, their basics, their appearance, all of that good stuff. What you want your book to be about, when is it going to take place, what is it going to happen, is it going to be first person and it's you, or are you writing more of like a fiction novel like Catcher? Basically just all of these little tips and tricks that you want to be aware of when you go to obviously sit down and write a book so you know what you're writing. Now, conflict and stakes, those are 2 things that I mentioned when I was doing my brainstorm, but basically you're going to want to have a conflict obviously pop up in your book if you're doing any kind of like story time type of novel, and your stakes. So the stakes of the conflict, like if this conflict doesn't get resolved, what's the risk? And if it does, what's the reward? And then obviously, last but not least, you want your conclusion, to know how you plan on ending or tying up your book, or like what you plan on ending it on if you're going to move it into a different book. So I've done my brainstorm, I have my book summary, I've mapped out my first 5 chapters, cracked open my kombucha. I think we're ready to start writing, guys. I am not about to write a chapter or anything at all in jeans. That's much more like it. Let's wrap on chapter 1. So there you guys have it. That is how I plan on writing Catcher 2. All of the ways that I mapped out all of the chapters, the storyline, all of that good stuff, and just all the tips and tricks that I've learned thus far in my life when it comes to writing a novel. So Leave a comment down below. Are you guys writers? Do you guys have any books that you're currently working on writing? Do you like to read? Is this even any kind of interest to you at all, or is it just intriguing to see somebody like be into something? And if so, let me know what you guys are super into. I want to hear about a hobby of yours. And also, really quick before we bop out, it's time to discuss how to win a personalized version of Catcher. So like I mentioned, I have 13 versions or 13 copies of Catcher to be sending out to you guys. So I'm going to leave all of the details on how to get your hands on these down below. There's going to be 13 winners, obviously. I'm going to send you guys a little package, a little Catcher package. And aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed today's vlog/video, and I will see all of you guys in Friday's fitness/health related Friday. Bye guys.